Assalamu alaikum. Hello, I'm Khalil Alika.
And I'm Zahir Parker, and welcome to AccidentalMuslims.com.
So AccidentalMuslims.com is a movement, a platform where we showcase present and future leaders to help us live with purpose.
And we believe that everybody has a story to tell. This podcast hopes to add value. So welcome and enjoy.
So my name is Mohammed Dalwai and you're listening to AccidentalMuslims.com.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
And Zahir, co-host.
Thank you, Khalil. Mohammed, welcome to our podcast. I'm sure the listeners will be taking benefit from what you have to share. And yeah, just sit back, relax, and let's have a conversation.
Mohammed, so if you had to introduce yourself to someone, I mean, how would you introduce yourself? Besides, I'm Mohammed Dalwai.
Well, I was actually just going to go with that one. Hi, I'm Mohammed.
So
I don't even go with my second name, just Mohammed.
Is it okay?
Yeah. And then normally I follow up with it that Mohammed is a very uncommon name in the world.
So what do you do?
It's a difficult question. I do three main things. So myself and my colleague run a social for-profit called EM Guidance. I'm the president of MSF, or Doctors Without Borders, and I'm busy completing my PhD.
How do you find that balance between the three? Plus, you married.
Yes.
Okay,
I recently got married.
So you got 4 balls there, juggling 4 balls. How do you find that balance?
I don't. I don't profess to think that I have balance yet. I strive every day to try and find that balance, but I haven't found it yet.
So I also believe that you studied medicine.
Yes.
And so you're not the first case that studied medicine but then stopped practicing.
Mm-hmm.
So is that like a common thing now? People do medicine but then branch off to something else, like entrepreneurship or...
I don't know. I actually love clinical medicine, and I've always loved it. It was one of the things that I loved most about being a medical doctor. And the problem is that as a medical doctor, as a clinician, you help one-on-one. You help one patient at a time. In EM Guidance or with mobile technologies or with technology, I get to help more than one person at a time. I get to help hundreds, thousands, if not more. And I think that kind of benefit to people is what attracts me outside of clinical work. Do I miss clinical work? Yes. Would I go back? Definitely. The question is how and when, and how do I then fit that into an already busy schedule? But I think a lot of people study medicine for the wrong reasons, and they don't really love what they do. And that's one of the biggest problems that I find in lots of my colleagues, that they complain all the time. But you have to love what you do. If you don't love it, don't do it. It's quite simple.
So what was your reason for studying medicine?
So I actually wanted to be a biomedical engineer, like make prosthetic limbs for people in Africa. And when I inquired about it, and obviously I was very young and naive around this, is that they told me you have to study engineering and then medicine, or medicine and then engineering. So I applied for both, and I got in for medicine first. So I went to go do medicine, and then my plan was always to go do engineering. But after 6 years of studying, you kind of get a little tired. And so now I'm doing engineering in a different way with mobile tech.
Oh, awesome, man. So you touched on already in terms of what was the most enjoyable part, or one of the enjoyable parts of medicine is the one-on-one clinical. You actually enjoyed that sort of engagement. Where were you placed in your community service? Or?
So I did my internship at Groote Schuur Hospital. Mm-hmm. At Groote Schuur, you learn to be really good with a stapler and a punch because you do a lot of administrative work. So I was an excellent punch person.
Awesome.
And then I went into rural medicine. That I really, really loved. I went into a place called Manguzi Hospital, which is on the border of KwaZulu-Natal and Mozambique. And it's literally the furthest hospital you could get from Groote Schuur. And before going outside of the country, obviously. And it was stunning. It was rural. It was was scary a lot of the times. You're alone, but you get to truly enjoy that clinical work. And you have patients coming to you when you go to the supermarket, screaming at you, saying, Udokotela, thank you so much, because you helped them. And I think the patients were very appreciative of the work that you did. And it really does make you feel special and feel part of a bigger community in South Africa.
Something I was talking to a friend of mine about is with education, or the opportunity that you have to study, you don't realize the privilege that you actually have. Especially, I know when I do appearances in the townships, the community looks up to people that are educated. Did you find that as well in your career in the rural aspect or even overseas?
Well, I don't know if they look up to you, but I think there is definitely a certain amount of respect. For me, it's also like you have to earn that respect. I mean, you treat them with dignity and with care and with humility. They always respond to you. And I think one of the key things that they kept on telling me was that the nurses were very happy with me. And, at the end of my stay, they said the reason why they were happy with me wasn't because I was a great doctor or a nice person, it was because I wore long pants. Because all the other doctors would wear shorts when they would come into the ward round. And me, because I had like these thin little Indian legs, I wanted to wear long pants. And that was a sign of respect for them. So it's about respecting the people that you work with. And I think it's a mutual respect that comes from working so closely with the community. And you really do enjoy it. I enjoyed that connection to the community. I felt part of that community. Yeah, you feel that you contribute to the society.
So how did you get involved with MSF, or Doctors Without Borders?
So I was in this rural hospital, and once a month a surgeon would fly out from KwaZulu-Natal, from Durban, and they would come help us, would teach us how to do operations in Manguzi. And one of the days, a surgeon from Durban came out to meet us and come help us. And she actually told me about MSF because I was showing her some of the basically handmade tools that we made to treat our patients and to improve the wound dressings that we had. So she was like, "Oh, you seem really handy and you like rural medicine. I think you should join MSF." And I never actually heard of MSF before that. And I was like, "Oh, sounds like a cool organization. Let me give it a try." And that's how it started.
And so what was your first mission type of thing? Did you travel, did you go to Pakistan, Afghanistan?
Yeah, so I always wanted to go to Africa.
Okay.
I wanted to go into Sierra Leone. I was South African. I have a very strong affiliation to South Africa. And the recruiter took one look at me, and obviously your podcast listeners can't see how I look, but I obviously look very Southeast Asian. And the guy took one look at me, and I was like, I really want to go to Sierra Leone or South Sudan. He was like, no, Mohammed, I think you're really going to fit into Pakistan. I was like, okay. So my first mission was in northern Pakistan, on the border of Afghanistan and Pakistan, in a place called Timugara. And it was an emergency medicine hospital or room in a bigger hospital that I worked at for 6 months.
So how was your experience there?
It was a tough experience. It was difficult. We faced bomb blasts, victims, multiple gunshot wounds. There was a lot of fighting between the Taliban and the Pakistani army. So there was a lot of casualties, and we lost quite a few patients. And I think that was the hardest part. And it's from those experiences that you start looking at where are the gaps and where are the difficulties and the flaws within our system, and how do we actually improve that, and how do we push to continually strive to improve that. Because I think that's one of the key lessons that I've learned, is that you have to fight for your patients, and you have to fight for what you believe can change the system.
So that's where you made the switch from, that opened your eyes to make the switch from medicine to technology and startups? And
I think it was one of the stories that was a pivotal moment for me. I think one of the other ones was my second mission. So I went into Libya, and it was just after Gaddafi fell, or they lost Tripoli, and we went in and we found that the rebels that overtook the Gaddafi forces were basically trying to secure the city. And in Libya at the time, you had many migrant workers that were from Central Africa that came through Libya, and some of them were manual laborers. They would work as painters, they would work as street sweepers, all the jobs that the Libyans didn't want to do. The problem was that in Gaddafi's army, he hired African mercenaries. So for the rebels, anybody who was African or black was automatically seen as a threat or a previous mercenary. So they would round them up and put them into these camps. And there was abuse in the camps, there was beating up. We would have reports of people being beaten up. There was no food, there was no water, there was no sanitation. And for the first time, you start realizing how you become not only a medical doctor, but an advocate for your patient. And you start speaking out about it. And I think that's one of the things that MSF taught me a lot, was that it's a French term called témoignage, which means to speak out. And it literally was speaking out and calling on the UN, calling on the UNHCR, and making sure that people know about the plight of these individuals, so that they don't become forgotten and that they don't become victims of casualties of war. So I think that kind of changed the concept of you being a clinical doctor and you being a advocate of change or advocate for your patients.
You know, when you mention emergency medicine, the first thing that I picture is ER, the old series that used to come on Mnet. And I remember Dr. Kovac going out into Africa on some mission. Is that more or less what Doctors Without Borders is about? Going out into these remote areas, no facilities, no, or next to nothing sort of resources. And how do you guys cope with such things, if it is like that?
So I have to admit, I never actually watched it. I never had Mnet as a child.
Okay.
So I kind of missed that.
Okay.
I had still SABC 1, 2, and 3.
Okay. I was a lucky guy then.
We didn't even have ETV, I think.
ETV came out later.
I think it's different in different circumstances. I think you do have limited resources in a lot of the countries that we go to. I think those resources are changing now as we change the types of operations that we do. In terms of, like in northern Pakistan, we had quite a sophisticated setup. But in Sierra Leone, we never had a sophisticated setup, and it kind of matches the facilities that are available within that country to a certain degree. And a lot of the times, within South Africa, we have limited resources and we do really well. And, that's why South African doctors are world renowned for being really hardworking and great clinicians, because we see quite a large mix of gross pathology with limited resources, and we try and deal with it. So for me, within MSF, a lot of it has to do with setting it up properly, like the hospitals. We have a lot of resources which we can bring from other countries into that country, and looking at the need on the ground and trying to match that need, and trying to also then create a space where our patients are taken care of. So it is rough and has limited resources, and the way we deal with it is we fight to make those resources available.
Is there a lot of politics involved in these sort of things? Because I'm sure if you mention rebels taking over towns, aren't they going to control what limited resources they are to impose their power?
So that's the one nice thing about MSF, is that we push a very strong impartiality and neutrality within all our operations. So we make it very clear to all parties on the ground that we will treat everybody, and that we are a neutral organization, so that we cannot be used or instrumentalized in one way or another. Obviously, it's not perfect, but we strive in every single mission to always communicate that to every single party on the ground, and to make sure that in Afghanistan we treat the army and Taliban. Doesn't matter, when you come into our hospital, you're a patient. We have a very strong no guns policy in all our missions, and when you come into the hospital, you don't come in with any kind of weapons, so you come in as a patient. And it doesn't matter who you are or where you come from, you are a patient, and that's how we treat you. And I think that's a key message that we strive for, and that's one of the reasons why we don't get instrumentalized that often, because everybody kind of knows that's who MSF is.
So how do people get involved if they want to get involved in MSF or Doctors Without Borders? Can anybody just join, or must it be doctors? Or?
So it's quite interesting. We have a large majority of people that work with MSF that are not doctors. So it should actually be not be called only Doctors Without Borders. It should be like Humanitarians Without Borders to a certain degree. So we have a lot of support staff in terms of pharmacists, the nurses. We have managers, so key logisticians, electricians, plumbers that go out, accountants, architects that all go out with MSF and fit a key role. Because I think as you evolve within the healthcare space within these different countries, you start realizing you need more skills. And a lot of the time, it's actually the logisticians or the guys that are in charge of water and sanitation that end up affecting more people's lives. In a refugee camp, it's not the healthcare worker, it's not the doctor that saves the most lives. It's the guy dealing with the sewage and the water and sanitation. So there's actually a key role for other types of individuals to get involved, even lawyers.
See?
Yeah.
MSF.
I must say, when I was studying, or before I did law, I actually was dreaming of becoming a doctor because I used to watch ER. Did not know that about that accountants and managers and logisticians were involved with Doctors Without Borders. It's actually quite interesting that you mentioned that, because it's a team effort in the end.
Exactly. It's not just one individual. And I think that sometimes people like to hero worship and kind of like put it down to one person. But any great thing in life is never done by one person.
Now let's move on to your startup. What's the name of the startup?
So we've had a bit of a long run. So we've started off as a not-for-profit organization called the Open Medicine Project about 3 to 4 years ago. It then evolved into we spun out a social for-profit about just under a year ago, and it's called EM Guidance. And the startup is focused mainly on looking at information access in point-of-care settings. So how do you get the right information to the right person at the right time? So we've created a platform where you can have geolocated guidelines for healthcare workers all around the country and again all around the globe, that then changes on your geolocation as you move as a healthcare worker.
So doctors download like an app?
Yeah, so doctors can download the application. You have then access to all the guidelines in your vicinity that are applicable to you. So say, for instance, you're working at Groote Schuur Hospital, you download the application and you can get all the Groote Schuur guidelines that we have on the application. You also can get then the South African national guidelines, as well as any national society guidelines that have joined the platform as well. If you then move to Johannesburg and you're in the Joburg Gen area, you then can get the Joburg Gen guidelines. We also then releasing quite soon, in the next couple of weeks, an open access medicines formulary, which will be one of the first open access medicines formulary within South Africa.
How does this EM guidance or this app that you guys have developed, how is it going to benefit the ordinary person, if I may ask, or general groot-scale patients, if I can put it that way?
So a lot of it is to do with, we focus mainly on the healthcare worker here directly.
Okay.
Because we started realizing, so it's mainly from our own personal experience, so it's myself and Yasin, and now we've gotten a team of 8 individuals, and it's mainly about our ability to access the right information. So knowing how to refer a patient to the correct clinic, knowing when that clinic is open, knowing what I need to give my patients. I think what knowing also what's safe to give my patient in terms of a medication. How do I give that medication to the patient? Is there any special things that I need to tell the patient when they're taking a certain medication? That kind of information is actually very beneficial not only to the doctor but to the patient indirectly to a certain degree. So for us, we focus on the healthcare worker because we believe that they are the nodes or the change agents within the system where a lot of the mistakes happen. They don't always know every single thing, and then they make mistakes. And I think we have to be very honest about this, is that healthcare workers can make mistakes. How do we decrease that? How do we empower them, and how do we make sure that they don't make mistakes with our patients? Is by supporting them and by giving them access to the information that they need.
That's awesome. So basically, you guys are upskilling or intending to upskill medical practitioners or medical workers in order to mitigate any mistakes.
Yeah,
and that's ultimately how the public benefits.
Yeah, it's mainly to support them, and basically allow them access to the information at their fingertips, because we have excellent information. I mean, we were one of the first countries to do a heart transplant. We have some of the best health institutions in the world, and in the rest of Africa. Right here, we have some of the best information with excellent professors and excellent academics. How do we share that information? How do we not keep it in these ivory towers, and how do we disseminate it? And that's one of the big key focuses on the platform.
So Mohammed, you mentioned you have a team of eight staff members or 8 employees. I'm imagining that you bootstrap this company, or did you get investors?
So, I mean, initially we bootstrapped. Now we have got on investors to take us further and to help us scale this into a global company.
And so for the listeners out there, especially the graduates or even entrepreneurs that want to scale their business, what advice would you give them in terms of pitching to investors?
Don't be naive. It's more about knowing your business and understanding the market and understanding the risks of the market. I think sometimes when we create things, especially as entrepreneurs, you fall in love a little bit with your creation, and you're almost blinded by how amazing your creation is. And it's hard to then listen to people break that creation down. I think that you have to be very brutally honest with yourself around what are the flaws of your creation, where's the positives, where's the negatives. And if you can show that to an investor that you've actually thought it through, not from the point of view that your creation is perfect or your business plan is perfect, but that you have flaws and you mitigate those well, I think that's what investors respect. And I think now being on the one side of it, I can understand why investors are very reluctant to give startups within South Africa money, because we don't always do that properly. We think what we create is amazing, and we're like, oh no, but there's no competitors that can beat us. It's like, really? You sure about that? You want to maybe think about that a little bit? So I for me, the best advice would be brutally honest with yourself. And if you can't be, the investors sure as hell going to be. So be prepared for that.
You mentioned your friend Yasin Khan. You've mentioned now you've got a team of 8, and you also mentioned investors. Coming up with an idea is one part of it, I'm pretty sure of it. Collaborating with others, how important is that in being effective in what you do?
It's vital. I think within South Africa we have a strong secrecy culture. It's like, no, I can't tell you. I'm doing something amazing, but I can't tell you. And they whisper in like little corners. We met a guy from Silicon Valley, and it was really interesting. He was saying, in Silicon Valley, you'll have 4 companies sitting next to each other doing exactly the same thing, but each one has a different value proposition. And they will share almost everything with the other 4 companies, what they do, how they do, why they do. But it's that special value offering that they give that sets them apart from the other person. And in South Africa, we haven't got the culture of how do we share this information? How do we actually tell everybody how we're doing it, what we're doing, what was the pitfalls? Because you should want other people to succeed. But in South Africa, we have this culture of, especially in the entrepreneurship circles, like, no, I can't tell you, no, it's a secret, it's a secret. It's like, there's no secret. And then they're like, no, you're going to steal my idea. Ideas are worth nothing until you execute them. And this is my issue, is South Africans believe an idea is worth millions. And it's like, do something with that idea. Show me how you're going to execute this idea. And this guy was basically saying, I will tell you everything about my business. And you know why I'm going to succeed over you? You know why I'm not scared that you're going to beat me? Because I'm going to nail it to the ground. Because I'm going to do every single thing that I can do to make this successful. And even if you want to, you're not going to be able to beat me. And that kind of mentality, that's what we should be kind of fostering. Not the secrecy mentality. It's like, tell me everything and then try and beat me. That's what you need to do. So collaboration is essential for that. And it's about sharing. And hopefully we can start sharing more of that information around what makes something successful and what makes things not successful.
Mohammed, I was there for your TEDx talk, but I also know you're a TED fellow. What is a TED fellowship about?
So the TED fellowship is a fellowship that identifies individuals that are doing good work around the world, and they basically bring you to a TED conference, and they allow you to speak at the TED conference in a separate track of the TED Fellows, and then your talk could then go live on TED.com. So the fellowship is a lot of support from other people around the world that are also doing amazing things, and it's a very kind of nurturing community. The fellowship is mainly just kind of bringing you around different TED conferences and allowing you to talk to other people and engage with other people. And then they also help you refine how you give a talk and how you communicate your idea and your plan to others.
For the TED Fellowship, if I recall correctly, it was for the mobile triage app. Is that correct or not?
Yes.
What was the mobile triage about again? If you could just briefly...
So, not many South Africans know this, but South Africa actually is one of the few countries in the world that has developed a triage scale. And a triage scale basically allows patients to be triaged when they come into an emergency room. So, for instance, if you're very ill, you get seen quicker than if you are not so ill and you can wait. And what was happening in South African hospitals was that people were coming in and we were seeing them on a first come, first served basis, and people were actually dying in our waiting rooms. And a group of clinicians and physicians came up with a triaging system at Jooste Hospital. They then tested it, trialed it, and actually published papers on it. And it evolved from the Cape Triage Scale to the South African Triage Scale. And with MSF and my work with MSF, we've implemented the South African Triage Scale across many different countries. And with the Open Medicine Project, we converted that triage scale, because even though the triage scale was there, people were still making mistakes with the paper-based version. And we converted it into a digital version to decrease the amount of mistakes that healthcare workers were making. Because on average, within a year, there was about 250,000 incorrect triaged patients in the Western Cape alone. So by making it digital, you decrease the mistakes that you have. And now, since subsequently, we've made it open access, so it's in both app stores for people to use. And we recently got a request from Spain to actually allow them to work on the code and implement the system in a Spanish hospital.
Oh, that's awesome, man. It's pretty clear why you are identified as someone who's doing good work. I'm sure this must be benefiting people on the ground, because I've seen the queues at Jooste, I've seen the queues in Grootskeur. It can't be a pleasant experience sitting there for so long.
No, it's not, and I think a lot of the things is more just communication, like having a board on a dashboard saying, okay, this is how long a red patient would wait, or this is how long an orange patient would wait. Those small things, that communication back to the patients, actually make a huge difference. And I think it's these small tweaks that can improve the healthcare system quite substantially. But again, it wasn't just me. Again, it was a team. And you can't really take an idea as just one person anymore.
Yeah. Just out of interest, where was this idea born? In some coffee shop, on the beach front, or just out of interest?
It was mainly born out of conversations between myself and Yasin.
Okay.
I think we've both worked in very difficult situations. He worked in a lot of the emergency rooms around the Cape Flats, as well as in the private sector. And whenever I would come back from a mission, we would sit down, debrief, and through our mutual discussions, it was actually born out of just the difficulties that we faced.
Yeah. That's fantastic. So, Mohammed, Mail and Guardian, top 200 youngsters in South Africa, TED Fellow, top 100 good people in the world. The accolades have come pretty much thick and fast in the last few years. Do you consider yourself successful, or how do you define success?
Short answer, no. How do you define success, eh? I don't think you ever attain it. I think you strive towards it. And, there's always this cliche of you need to enjoy the journey. The destination is not important, kind of thing. Yeah, it's more about trying to wake up every day and trying to strive, and because it's not easy. Sometimes you just don't want to sleep. Sometimes you just don't want to do the hard things, because it's always the path less traveled. It's always the hard path that's the right path. Sometimes you just want to take the easy path, man. So success is more about choosing the difficult path every day and sticking to it, and not thinking that you're crazy, but going further with it and thinking that this can actually work.
How would you describe yourself in 3 words?
Hairy, unfit, red shoes.
It's interesting you mentioned success. I'm reading this book by Roy Vaden. The name of the book is Take the Stairs. So picture this. You're walking and you see a flight of stairs and escalators. What are you gonna go towards? What are you gonna use? Most of us use the escalators.
Hence why I'm unfit.
So the whole premise of the book was to take the stairs. And it has a very interesting line. He says, success is not owned. Success is rented. And the rent is due every day. So that's like my quote now for the whole month. I just implanting it in my head. So interesting you said mention about success.
What's your favorite Quranic verse or story or Islamic story?
I don't have a favorite one. I think the thing that I've learned over the last couple of years and through everything that I've seen and experienced is that we're all the same. In human beings, all the same. No matter what religion, no matter what culture, what creed, you all want the same things. You want a peaceful life. You want your family to be taken care of. You want them to be protected. You want food on the table. And all the religions, no matter what you actually look at, they all preach the same thing. They all preach kindness, honesty, dignity, compassion. And they all teach this, that you should want more for your neighbor than you want for yourself. But how many of us actually do that? We do all the external stuff. You wear a beard, you wear yarmulke, you wear a top. But the characteristic of a good person, that we fail to do, because it's easier to do this externalities. So for me, the favorite part of religion is the harder part. It's the characteristic part.
Let's say you're going to die today.
I guess in tonight, because there's like 2 hours left.
Yeah.
Or like, do I have a whole day?
You're going to die in the next hour.
In the next hour?
Yeah.
Don't you want to give me like more time? Like, why you want to be so...
Okay. You got 2 hours to live.
2 hours, okay.
So you have enough energy for only 1 or 2 sentences. What would you tell the people closest to you?
Thank you.
I'm going to take you on a journey. to the year 2030. What is it?
Just let me try and figure.
15 plus
40
30,
years.
yeah.
Okay.
What is it that Mohammed Dalwai wants to see? Share with us your vision.
I'd like to see Mugabe out of Zimbabwe. Hopefully. 14 years, I think it would give.
I think you'll be 100 by then. Eh?
The man just doesn't stop, man. He could actually go on until then. I wouldn't be surprised. What would I want to see?
Yeah. Either personally or in terms of your commitments, as we alluded to earlier.
I don't know. I think on a broader scale, I think we want to see people being more empathetic towards each other. People looking after the environment a bit better. I think by that time, if we haven't made those realizations, our planet is going to be in a much worse off situation. And I think, just more to kind of go back to the previous question was, I would love to see more and more people living the characteristics of being a good person. Because I think that's the key fundamental that we would want, that all of us would want in our lives. Just be a good person.
I want to thank you, and on behalf of Zahir and myself, really appreciate you coming. I know your hours are quite hectic balancing those 4 balls. So thank you, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. I enjoyed chatting to you guys.
It's been inspiring listening to you, whether you want to acknowledge it or not. I just want to tell the listeners out there that the shoes is quite rare. But thank you for taking your time. Part of what we're trying to do at AccidentalMuslims.com is to share stories, to create a network, a place where people can look for inspiration, and hopefully our listeners will take that from some of the insights you've shared with us. And we pray that your life is blessed and you go from success to success. And stay fit.
Thanks.
So that's it for today's show. We hope we added value. We hope you enjoyed it. But most of all, we hope our guest has inspired you to live with purpose. Don't forget to send us your suggestions via info@accidentalmuslims.com. If you know anybody out there that is inspiring, that's leading, that's living with purpose, please do contact us.
And remember, feedback is our oxygen. So follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I hope you enjoyed. God bless. Assalamu alaikum.